time to move on. Some scary moments for the pilot of a small plane today as he had to make an emergency landing on the 215 freeway in San Bernardino after his engine quit.
It's one of the worst fears of pilots. You know, we're always wondering, what are we going to do when our engine quits? And you hope you're in a good spot. I still don't know why it quit.
Troy Hartman says he started looking for a landing spot, and the freeway was the only place to do it. And Oakland police have issued a statement to announce they are going to be cracking down on illegal auto sideshow stunts. After multiple complaints, the department plans to deploy extra officers to stop the stunts. Steve Clausen, California News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/search. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. So, while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/search. That's ZipRecruiter.com/search. ZipRecruiter.com/search.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The Mueller report says investigators found no clear evidence that President Trump did not commit obstruction of justice. The report says that if they were able to clear the president on that front, they would have. The report also suggests that Congress could look at the obstruction of justice question. The top 2 Democrats in Congress do not approve of the way Attorney General Bill Barr laid out the report. In a joint statement, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said Barr distorted the conclusions to benefit President Trump. The National Enquirer is being sold for $100 million to the CEO of Hudson News. Tom Roberts has the details.
James Cohen has reportedly purchased the tabloid along with 2 sister publications from parent company American Media. The decision to sell came after the hedge fund manager whose firm runs American Media became discouraged by the company's reporting practices. American Media has faced harsh criticism over the Enquirer's efforts to help President Trump, led by CEO David Pecker, a longtime friend of Trump. Hudson News is one of the largest book and magazine distributors in the Northeast U.S. Tom Roberts, NBC News Radio.
The Republican head of the Senate is moving to raise the national smoking age to 21 years old. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will introduce the bill next month. It will mean that 18-year-olds will no longer be able to buy tobacco or vaping products. New York City is enforcing its emergency order requiring measles vaccinations during the current measles outbreak. Leanne Ducat of Informed Choices is part of a group of families suing the city over its measles edict.
Some people react. There are a certain subset of children with mitochondrial disorders or gene mutations that affect their ability to process these chemicals when they're injected into their body, and it's just not safe for them.
Meantime, 3 summonses were issued after 3 children were found not to be vaccinated. The Department of Health said not complying with the order could mean a fine of $1,000. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us if you want Viagra at the lowest prices. Never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-357-1583 today to save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 800-357-1583 to take your call now. Call 800-357-1583. That's 800-357-1583. Again, 800-357-1583.
San Bernardino, Loma Linda, Rialto listens to KCAA Radio.
Are you ready for a new experience? To see life from another point of view? New hope, new expression, new joy. This is your radio hour. Welcome to Viewpoint with Father John.
And welcome, friends. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or on the World Wide Web at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I'm your host, Father John Reid. By the way, you can follow Viewpoint with Father John on both Facebook and Instagram. Hey, we're really building that Instagram family, so come and join us there. It is Viewpoint with Father John. Put the little lines where the little lines go. I don't know why they do it that way, but they do. But every week or so, I put up a nice little video to help inspire people and let them know that, you know what, God doesn't have stepchildren, and hope that you'll tune in on Instagram as well. All of God's children are endowed with extraordinary purpose and ability. I'm on a quest to help as many as possible in fully realizing their divinely inspired potential. Disposing of false narrative and embracing genuineness inspires clarity of purpose. My role is to help overcome self-imposed limitations in realizing one's spiritual potential. And brothers and sisters, Viewpoint with Father John is a listener-supported program, and so I would really like to invite you to go to viewpointwithfatherjohn.com. Go to the support button, click on it, and give whatever you can. It will take credit cards. It will take, electronic check and a few other things like that. I know it goes through PayPal. But whatever you can give, I appreciate. And I appreciate all of you who've been giving to the show so we can stay on the air. Also, I'd like to invite you to buy a copy of my book, Close Your Eyes So You Can See Me. The premise of this book is that we are all God's children and that we do not need more self-improvement. Rather, we need self-discovery. Close Your Eyes So You Can See Me is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and most online bookstores. So get your copy today. And with all the stuff going on in the news today, you'll be happy to know that I'm not going to comment because it's just too much, and I don't want to walk out here looking like Nick with no hair on my head. Instead, we'll just say that more will be revealed. Speaking of Nick, my heart is absolutely broken that this may be his last show with us tonight, and he has been fabulous, and I know I'm going to get some letters from other people, but I'm just going to say it. He is the best sound engineer in the business, and of the different engineers I've had on this show, he's been really wonderful. He's been my favorite, and he's going to be greatly missed, so you can bet we're going to be writing letters and stuff trying to get him back. And phooey to the show that's getting him, I wish you well. I hope you, have a nice run, and then you give him back to me because he's a great engineer. So, Nick, thanks for everything you've done since you've been on the show. You're greatly appreciated. Now that I got through the personal stuff, I am very excited to have someone who's been on the show before, and the work she does is so important. Her name is Pat Bell. She's with House of Ruth. And before we go into this, congratulations. You got a promotion since our last talk. You are now the executive director.
Thank you very much. Yes, I am.
I'd like to give you a complimentary bottle of Excedrin to help you in your new endeavors.
Well, thank you.
But thanks for being here with us tonight. And so we're going to talk a little bit about domestic violence. So for my listeners who do not know what House of Ruth is, can you kind of give a thumbnail sketch so that they can be clued in?
Sure. House of Ruth is a domestic violence agency that serves eastern Los Angeles County throughout San Bernardino County. We provide emergency crisis services, shelter, outreach walk-in services, support, counseling, children's programs, housing programs, lots of things to people that have been suffering with domestic violence in their home, and we try to ensure that survivors have a place to go.
You said outreach things. Educate me on that.
Sure. We have an outreach center, walk-in center in Pomona, and sometimes people, when they're experiencing domestic violence in the home, they may not need emergency shelter. They may not need to go into a shelter,
okay,
but they still need the support. So they can come to our outreach center and, attend a class. They can receive a counseling session, the kids might be able to receive some therapy. It's just a place where people can, receive the support that they need, but they may have already fled the home. They might already have a new place to live. They might be staying with a family member and not need that confidential shelter environment.
Sure. Now, in that counseling session, is there a charge for that, or?
All of our services are free.
Okay. And I wanted that to go over the air because I think one of the things that keeps people from getting help is they're worried about if they can afford it or not. First time I heard of House of Ruth, I hate to admit, was over 30 years ago, close to 35 years ago, when I was going to an organization called PALM, which is Problem of Addiction and Labor and Management. It's not easy being blonde and trying to remember things from 35 years ago, or even what I had for breakfast. And I can remember working in the field of addiction, and one of the workshops for our continuing education units was about House of Ruth. And, being a priest, I'm thinking, what's this biblical thing? Of course, that's where we always go. And when I was informed on the work that was going on, I was so impressed and devastated at the same time.
Sure.
And the reason, let me qualify that a little bit, is because when you hear about what some of these families go through and why House of Ruth is so necessary, it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. Before the show, you and I were talking about the violence that is experienced by the children. Whether they physically get hit or not, the fact that they even hear the violence going on or the screaming going on. Could you speak to that for a little bit?
Yeah, children are impacted by domestic violence. They witness it, they hear it, and when you grow up in a household where there is arguments, fighting, tension, it becomes normalized for children. So when they become adults, there's a strong likelihood that they might repeat the behavior that they've grown up in because they don't know anything different.
Right.
They don't know what a healthy relationship might look like. So we spend quite a bit of time with the children to help them process what they have witnessed or experienced, and just in terms of showing them that there are better ways to express your feelings and your emotions. We do quite a bit of outreach work, prevention education work in schools.
Good.
We start even down to an elementary school level, middle school, high school, and college. And we focus quite a bit on, the younger levels, age appropriate, hands are not for hitting type curriculum. When we move into middle school, then we start talking about bullying and, all of the cyber things that are going on, inappropriate cyber usage.
Yes, we have a lot of that happening right now.
Yeah, and with teens, do you know that 1 in 3 teenagers experiences violence in their relationships?
I can believe it.
1 in 3. So what we try to do is, educate the teens on what are the warning signs, what to look out for, what is the, threshold of crossing over from a healthy relationship into an unhealthy, then an abusive relationship. We offer wellness circles in high schools.
Now, what's that?
Wellness circles, we have relationships with a couple of different school districts, and we will come in over a period of 10 weeks. And usually the counseling staff or the administrative staff will refer to us, teens that they think might need some support. And over the 10 weeks, we talk about things like dating violence, consent, how to say no,
good,
how to not succumb to peer pressure,
good,
where to get help if you are in an abusive relationship,
good.
Just the roles of, talking gender roles and talking about, the way boys should treat girls, the way girls should treat boys, even same-sex relationships, just talking through all those difficult things that teens really don't have a place to go to talk about. So it's been very well received. We are in quite a few high schools out there.
Well, one of the things that I would imagine is difficult in dealing with the kids is most children in the abusive home are taught the 3 rules of survival, which is don't trust, don't talk, don't feel. And if you talk to anyone outside the home, or even someone inside the home, what took place, you're a traitor. And you have to pay a severe price for that, whether it's a beating, whether it's being shunned, whether it's being locked in a room or a closet. And it amazes me how many people in our society are blind to this. They think, well, that's just Hollywood. That doesn't really happen. And yet this year, because of bullying and drugs, we're only in April, and I've already buried more children to suicide this year than I did last year. And last year I buried a lot of kids. And I get very emotional about that. But when you can't even go home because that's not safe.
Sure.
What do you do? And so that's why what you're doing is so important.
Yeah, and it's hard for, teachers and adults to identify it because the kids hide it really well. We really, try to educate on what to look for, but kids become parentified. They become the overachievers, wanting to please and wanting to do well and wanting to get the good grades. And you really don't realize that there's a whole nother thing going on at home.
Yes. And a lot of times these kids become chameleons. They know how to blend in. They know how to look good at the right time so that nobody ever suspects. I grew up in that. I grew up with a lot of abuse, and nobody would ever know it.
I did too. Same thing.
Yeah, because we learned you don't let that secret out. And I think last time you were here, we talked a little bit about that. And even with a more open society, and I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek because we haven't come nearly as far as we thought we had, it's still a really hidden problem. And go ahead.
There's a lot of, for the person that's being abused, there's a lot of fear in reporting or seeking help because of the threats.
Right.
And the financial control and, the fear of retaliation against the kids, retaliation against the pets. And sometimes, often actually, the person that's being abused loves the spouse or the partner and
parent
just wants the abuse to stop.
Well, and we also deal a great deal with Stockholm Syndrome. And for those of you who don't know what Stockholm Syndrome is, just to give you just a Cliff's Note version of it, is that when you are captive in a situation, which in domestic violence you certainly are captive, in an effort to survive, you identify with your captor. And you will even protect the captor against the police and from other people. And it's a very sick relationship to where you totally lose yourself and don't realize how badly abused you are because you get focused on protecting your captor out of a sense of trying to survive. Would that be about how you would describe that?
Yeah. And, I take every opportunity that I can to raise up the services that House of Ruth provides because a lot of people don't realize that if you are suffering from abuse in your home, we provide services for intimate partner violence. You can get help with us. And even if it's simply calling our hotline and talking to an advocate on the phone, we can offer resources for you. We can get you connected with what healing support groups you might need with us. If you need therapy for your children, please call us. Let us know.
Well, before we go to break, which we're about to do, I want to say something for our listeners who are hearing this program right now. If you are a victim of domestic violence, you didn't cause it, you don't deserve it. Nobody does. And I tell people in addiction relationships, remember the 3 C's. You didn't cause it, you can't control it, you can't cure it. And so very important to know that you didn't cause the domestic violence. And with that, we are going to go to break. And my guest this evening is Pat Bell with House of Ruth, and you're listening to Viewpoint with Father John.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org, www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
Hey guys, this is Andrew Caravella. Just wanted to let you know that KCAA has a new listener line for all of you that have a phone. Now you can listen to KCAA in the grocery store, in the doctor's office, or when you want to pretend you're on the phone with someone just so that creeper will leave you alone. Call 720-835-3099 today and listen to your favorite KCAA radio shows. That number again, 720-835-3099. KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no caller or listener behind.
If you're looking for a full or part-time sales position and you have radio, TV, or print media experience, KCAA has a great opportunity waiting for you that pays the highest commissions in the market. KCAA is the only station in the IE that broadcasts on 3 frequencies, so advertisers receive 3 ads for 1 low rate. This makes KCAA a must-buy for every local business. If you're interested in a sales position with us, email ceo@kcaaradio.com.
And welcome back. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM. We're on the World Wide Web at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reid. And just a little note real quick. I'm meeting tomorrow with my good friend, Dr. John Smith, that some of you know out there. And Elizabeth Preston, who's been a guest here as well, and myself are putting together a workshop that will be presented in a couple of months. So I will keep you informed as we put that together. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm very excited that I get to go out of town in a week and a half or so to lead a men's retreat up in Nevada City. And if you know where Nevada City is, well, you're a smarter person than me, which doesn't take a whole lot. But I'm very excited about that. So wish me well on that. And Nick, what do you think about this new change, man? We're going to miss you.
I'm to be honest, I mean, I'm a person that, I don't. Well, first off, I'm going to miss you too. This is one of my favorite shows to run, if not my favorite show to run.
Thank you.
I'm going to miss seeing you and Gabby on a weekly basis, and that's the truth. I'm also the kind of person that doesn't like change and uncertainty, which I'm facing a lot of that right now. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I'm not one to necessarily run away from it. I'll deal with it, but I'm gonna miss doing this show. Truth be told.
Well, we have more in common than you realize. I also hate change. That's why I've been wearing the same diaper for 3 days. But that's okay.
TMI.
But thanks for everything you've done for this show, and I hope at some point you'll be back because you really have been my favorite, and you've just done wonders, and I'm grateful to you. So thank you.
Well, you don't know how much you've helped me either. So. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, my guest this evening is Pat Bell. She's the executive director at House of Ruth, which is a very important program. We're talking about domestic violence and family violence because that goes within there. And when we say domestic violence, I think it's important to qualify. We're not just talking about married couples. We're talking about people who live together. We're talking about same-sex couples. We can sometimes be talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, single parents with kids. That could be a violent situation as well. I know in the home that I grew up in, we've talked before that my dad was gone before I was 1 year of age, and my mother were alcoholism and other issues. It was a very violent home, and I maybe that's why I'm a great priest, is I learned how to keep secrets better than most people can. And in fact, I've had some people say, "Did you know this?" I said, "Why?" "Because everyone has said something about it but you." I said, "Well, I learned a long time ago to keep quiet." It's out of survival. So we're talking a little bit about your outreach stuff, and I think that's very important. We covered the children a little bit. What a lot of people, I think, don't understand is that sometimes the husband is the one being abused. That happens, but also in same-sex marriages that happens too. Can you talk to those two issues?
Sure. You know, let me define domestic violence just in general as a precursor to that. Domestic violence, really, the root of it is power and control over someone.
Yes.
And it shows up in what we would call the cycle of violence.
Okay.
And, you know, all couples, all relationships will have disagreements.
Sure.
And in a cycle of violence, you'll have a tension building stage.
Okay.
And tension building will then escalate into the explosive episode. After the explosive episode, it will then circle back around into the honeymoon phase.
Right.
And in the honeymoon phase, you know, there's lots of apologies. I won't do this again. There's, on the other side, there's hope with the person that experienced the abuse that they'll change.
Right.
And then it goes through the cycle again, back into tension building. And the longer a person remains in a domestic violence situation, the quicker the cycle accelerates.
Yes.
So there's less time in that. And then abuse can show up in many ways. People think that it's often physical abuse, but the emotional abuse is just as devastating, because you can have just a lot of emotional trauma in being downgraded, you know, name calling.
Yes.
You know, just the impact of isolating you from friends and family so that you're not able to see or talk to anyone anymore. There's also financial abuse, controlling the finances.
Yes.
Not allowing a person access to the bank accounts, you know, not allowing the person to have credit cards, things like that just, again, keeping that power and control over someone.
A hostage, yes.
Exactly. You know, you can see other forms of abuse, such as sexual abuse within a relationship.
I'm glad you said that. I was dealing with a couple one time, and I had to explain to one of the members in the relationship that when your spouse says no and you continue to bully them till they say yes, that's rape.
Correct.
Because
marital rape.
Marital rape.
Yep.
And they almost got violent with me in the session, and they thought better, because I'm a fat old man, and if I fall over on you, that's trouble. But that was a real awakening for their spouse, that it was acknowledged that that's rape.
It's interesting, coincidentally, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
This is the second time we've done this. Last time it was domestic violence.
I know. There's a month for all of these important causes, yes. Next Tuesday, I think it's Tuesday, April 24th. I might have the day of the week wrong, but April 24th next week is Denim Day. And Denim Day is a day to wear your blue jeans. And it was created, there was a rape case in Italy that was tried.
Okay.
And the judge threw the case out because the victim was wearing jeans that the judge felt were too tight. And how could the perpetrator possibly get the jeans off? And so all of the women in the city and country at that time went up in arms and started, you know, rallying, wearing their jeans. And it's, you know, snowballed into today all across the world, really. Everybody wears blue jeans on Denim Day, April 24th.
April 24th.
Yeah.
So for my listeners, I'm looking that up right now on my almost smartphone. The 24th is Wednesday of next week. And so I would ask my listeners to join me in wearing denim. Now, I do have a funeral that morning, so for part of it, I won't be able to wear the jean. But after the funeral, you have my commitment. I'll wear jeans.
Yep.
And if you're listening to the show, please support this. It may seem trivial. It's not. I think, as we've heard so many times, all evil needs to do to succeed is for good people to do nothing. So I'm glad you told us about that.
Yeah,
so thank you.
of course, yes. So, along the lines of how does that impact domestic violence, we do talk about sexual abuse within relationships and consent. That's why it's so important for us to hit the youth with what is consent.
Yes.
What does it mean to say no, and how do you not, buckle to peer pressure?
And I can't believe in 2019 we still have to say this, not towards the victims, but towards our society. If you have been raped, you did not ask for it. You did not invite it. It's a violent crime. It has nothing to do with sex in the first place. It has to do with control and violence. If you have been assaulted, I'm begging you, get help. You didn't cause it. It's natural to feel guilty from it, and it's because you're trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. You didn't cause it. You're not guilty. Get help. If you need to go through this program and get a hold of me, I will be glad to listen. And I'll be glad to help you get into some real help. Okay? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Pat.
it's
Please
fine.
continue.
That's fine. Other forms of abuse, as I said, financial abuse. Financial abuse is probably one of the biggest barriers preventing a person from leaving a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have access to the funds to be able to go out and reestablish a household somewhere else. So that's why at House of Ruth, we offer all of our services for free. We do have an emergency shelter if you need a place to stay until you can get stabilized a little bit.
Good.
You've got a place to stay. Our shelter is based on bed space, of course, but we have a great relationship with all of the shelters throughout Southern California, so that if we don't have room, we'll find another one that does, and we network with each other and help.
I want to talk about something that's very ugly, but I think we'd be remiss if we don't discuss it. One of the fears I often hear, if he finds out where I am or where I'm working, I'm in danger, everybody's in danger. So let's talk a little bit about the confidentiality of your programs and how you're able to help some of these people get a new start and to do that as safely as possible. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. One of the first things that we do when we, start working with a family is really just assess the level of violence that's going on and, what we would call the lethality of the situation.
Okay.
We, safety plan in terms of the workplace, the schools that the kids are attending, and, the person that is suffering from the abuse knows best what they need. So we certainly don't tell them what they should be doing. We help them make those decisions, but they're empowered to make their own decisions about what they want to do.
Good.
When a person feels that they do need emergency shelter and it is a real crisis situation, we will advise them to come to the confidential location. We don't disclose the city in which our shelter is located.
Good.
In order to protect everyone. And we advise the person to remove the children from school because the abuser will look there first.
Right.
And then, sometimes the kids can be placed in an unsafe situation or used as leverage to get the survivor back. But we have relationships. We have a wonderful children's staff member, children's director that works with the schools to, just keep them abreast of what's going on.
Are the schools pretty cooperative?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, they are. And we in terms of employment, there are actually labor laws that protect victims.
Okay.
An employer really should. There is a penal code. I couldn't cite the name of it, but there is a penal code available under labor laws for domestic violence, if you look it up, that if you are in a situation and you go to your boss, the boss should be granting you a leave of absence.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Or time off to be able to seek counseling, etc. And then we talk through options. If you're working for an employer that has multiple sites, could one of the options be to transfer you to another location, or assist in getting you to, maybe there's a location out of state that you could transfer to. It depends case by case.
I'm going to ask a question that I'm reluctant to be honest, but I think it's an important question to ask. How do you deal with some of the other employees so they know not to give out information where the person was transferred? Are you able to say to the boss, in this transfer, it's not to be revealed to any of the employees where this person's being, or how do you deal with that?
Again, this is going to come from the survivor. The survivor is going to work with the boss.
Okay.
And, just really talk through as much as she wants to disclose.
Or he, right.
Or he, yeah. We will, on the back end, just make sure that they're informed about what their rights are so that they can go in and have an informed discussion. But really that conversation takes place between the two of them. I will tell you, we do, on a community outreach basis, go into places of employment and conduct for employers how to spot domestic violence within your workplace.
Oh, that's good.
When you think statistically, 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men are being harmed. If you're running a company that has 200 employees, the likelihood of you having someone in your employee pool is very high.
Very high.
So we actually work with trying to educate them on how to be, a compassionate employer. So if someone has excessive absenteeism, chronic personal phone calls, really explore that. And don't assume that they're a bad employee or, someone that's just tardy all the time. Really pull them in and ask those questions that are, open-ended and offering them the help that they might need. And then we drop off our House of Ruth hotline cards, our brochures, and make sure that they know how to get them connected with us.
That's really good advice. Excellent advice. There's another area, and I know I'm kind of jumping from place to place, is just... You have so much information. I really appreciate you coming out for this.
There's a lot to talk about, yes.
One area that a lot of people don't talk about, because we think about these people only in the role of being a hero, is first responders. And when it's a first responder involved, when I say first responder, I'm talking about police service, fire service, things along those natures, paramedics.
Emergency rooms.
That a lot of times the victim, the survivor, has trouble getting help because the code of silence. And I know that I've had a lot of friends in law enforcement where it's been a problem where they covered for their fellow responder and even went so far as to sometimes let them know, help track down where the survivor went. Now that's been rare. But have you had some experience with that? I know it's a tough one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is a tough one. Yes, we have had some experience with that. I won't get into real specifics, but I can say that, we do our best to make sure that law enforcement personnel are just informed about, they'll walk into a domestic violence call and you've got 2 parties involved, and sometimes it's very difficult to determine who's the victim, who's the perpetrator.
Yes.
Right? So, we're trying to extend our services just as a resource for them to be able to, call us if they need us, and we can come out and, respond to the family that's left behind while the perpetrator's been arrested and taken away. There are confidentiality laws in place that protect us in terms of domestic violence privilege.
Good.
So if a police officer who may perhaps be a perpetrator also within his own relationship at home, he can't use his authority, he or she can't use their authority to come. We will exert our domestic violence privilege rights to protect the confidentiality and safety of those that are with us.
Very good. Well, we're coming up to our next break, and our conversation, as you can tell, is a very serious one, a very important one. Last time Pat was here, I said it was probably the most important program we have done, and I think this is on line with that tonight. And so we'll be back in 2 and 2, and you're listening to Viewpoint with Father John.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292 FQ Riverside, and K293 CF Moreno Valley.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
Now, here's a new concept: digital network advertising, where businesses display your ad inside their building. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, your company is going to thrive with digital network advertising. Choose your marketing sites or jump on the DNA system and advertise with all participants. Your business ad or logo is rotated multiple times an hour inside local businesses where people will discover your company. Digital network advertising, DNA, a novel way to be seen and remembered. Digital network advertising with networks in Redlands and Yucaipa. Call in the 909 area 222-9293 for introductory pricing. That's 909-222-9293 for digital network advertising. One last time, digital network advertising, 909-222-9293.
And welcome back, brothers and sisters. You are tuned to KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or on the World Wide Web at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I am your host, Father John Reid. And again, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that Viewpoint with Father John is a listener-supported program. So you are the ones who keep me on the air every week. And if this programming is important to you, and I know that some of you have expressed that it really is, and I thank you for that, please go to viewpointwithfatherjohn.com, go to the support button, and give whatever you're able to. It's all appreciated. And again, I want to invite you to buy a copy of my book, Close Your Eyes So You Can See Me, because that also helps pay for the airtime here and also helps keep a roof over my head. So don't just buy one copy. It's a great gift for everybody you know, and some people you don't know they can just hand if they're in a phone booth. I know, what's a phone booth? I know, kids, Google it. It really did exist. So we're back here, and my guest is Pat Bell, the Executive Director of House of Ruth, and we're getting some very important information. We've been talking about domestic violence and what that is, what it entails, and the control issue. And I'd like to delve in a little bit more about what are ways, non-physical ways, that people can be abused.
Non-physical ways of abuse could look like embarrassment in public, name calling, gaslighting. There's, crazy making. An abuser, again, will play mental mind tricks and say something to a person and then hours later say, I never said that. And if you hear that often enough, you start to question yourself about whether or not, wow, am I making this up? So just the psychological, mental abuse, depression, anxiety, those are often results of this,
There's also what I call emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
And that's when, I'm going to call your folks and tell them what you've been doing. You think they'll still love you after this?
Yeah.
You think they'll be proud of you?
Yeah.
And, I know in my household, one of the things that was said regularly is when we make a new friend, they say, well, wait till they find out what you're really about and who you really are. They won't be your friend much longer.
Right.
Or if we had a promotion at work, well, when they find out who you really are, they're probably going to hire someone in your place.
Right.
And that's some of the emotional sabotage.
Yeah.
Is like what I like to call it. Do you see a lot of that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Again, just the threats, you're going to lose your job. Nobody's going to want to hire you. You can never leave me. How will you support yourself? You're not smart enough.
Yes.
Those are very common tactics. And again, it's just the control over someone. That's why when people come to us, not only do they need to heal physically and mentally, but just reestablishing their self-esteem, and we empower them to make their own choices because someone has made the choices for them the entire time.
And it can be tough to learn how to make your own choices after
Yeah.
because you doubt yourself so much.
Yeah. So we do a lot of work just to, help them find their inner person and inner belief in themselves.
Yes.
And, I think it's important work that we do just to really make sure that not only are they safe physically,
sure, but
that emotional healing comes to, we work really closely with the parents of the children that come in. The parent is the victim or the survivor. And many times they need to get a refresher on how to parent.
Yes.
Because now they're separated from the controller or the abuser who may have, offered the discipline to the children in an unhealthy way. But because it had been going on for so long, now when they're away from it, the child, especially as children are getting older, they may not respect the parent as the authoritative figure.
Right.
And, emulating some of the behaviors that they've been seeing.
Sure.
So we try to, really break that down, and there's parenting classes, there's mommy and me classes for the little ones, and just reestablishing some of those things with parenting.
I keep hearing in the back of my head Pat Benatar's song "Hell Is for Children," and in some cases that's the truth. And also, one of the things that the children I've noticed deal with is they feel like they're being disloyal to one parent or the other.
Yeah.
And when they've been trying to keep peace, because a lot of times my experience has been that they feel that if they were better children, this wouldn't be going on.
That's absolutely right.
Dr. James Finley, graduate of Fuller, who was a monk for a while with Thomas Merton. I don't know if you know Thomas Merton, but he's one of my heroes. And he grew up in that. And one of his jobs when he was in junior high was to sit at the top of the stairs as his father beat the bejesus out of his mother. And if he felt that his father was going too far and actually killing her, he had to try to run down out the front door without getting caught by him to yell for help for the police if he could make it. And he dissociated at one point. Some of you don't know what that means. I mean, he found a safe place in his brain where his father couldn't get to him, as though it was a real place. And we don't have time to go into dissociative disorders, but he later had to go through deep traumatic therapy for this, and he later became a psychologist as well. But I think about that, and how many kids are trying to protect parents when the parents are supposed to be protecting the children. One of the tools I've used, and we may have talked about this last time, was a thing called the Ungame. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
The Ungame?
Yeah. And I learned it when I was working with kids in junior high and lower. And it's a game where basically everybody pretty well wins. But some of the things that happen, you roll the dice, you pull a card. Last time I felt this, and then they're able to talk about it. Last time I was angry, it was this. Last time I was scared was this. And I found that to be a very helpful game because the kids get involved with the game and they don't realize how much information they gave up about what their crisis level is. And it was another crisis counselor who passed that game on to me.
Yeah,
so
that's interesting.
So
yeah.
I didn't know if you use that or not, but
yeah.
just one of the tools out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools that our counseling department uses. We have,
I bet.
Yeah, we have counselors in place. We have a program called CHAT, Child Abuse Treatment Therapy.
Okay.
And it's actually something that's available to children for free.
Good.
For any child that has witnessed or experienced a violent act. It doesn't have to be domestic violence. It could be, witnessing a murder in the parking lot or something. Something that has really alarmed the child.
Sure.
It could be bullying at school. But we offer that ages 4 to 18 years old. And we have therapists that specialize in helping the kids process that.
I wish I didn't have to ask this question, but I do in today's climate. What about kids from school shootings? Do you have something that they can come to?
We would we would put them into this program that I'm describing right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that that definitely classifies as witnessing a violent act.
Sure.
I know we don't have time to get into conversations about guns, but I will just say in general, if a domestic violence household is out there and there's a gun in the household, the likelihood of homicide, intimate partner homicide, is 50% higher than not having a gun in the house.
And for those listening, I want to be real clear about something. It's a fine line between homicidal and suicidal. And so even if they start out suicidal, that can change any second without prior notice. And that's where you see a lot of these murder-suicides. So if it's there, I'm begging you, with as much as one human being can care about another one, get help. That's why I have Pat on the show tonight, because her program is one of the best programs out there. And believe me, I've looked into some of this stuff, and that's why the first time I asked if you'd come on the program, it was so important to me, because your program is a legitimate deal. It's the real deal, and it's really the flagship of most of these programs. And I say that from researching this, because a lot of places look at your program and emulate. At least it was 35 years ago when I was first introduced. I'm sure it's pretty much that way now.
Thank you for that feedback. That's nice. I would like to say at this point, just on the heels of what you just said, I'd like to offer our hotline number.
Please.
We operate a 24-hour crisis hotline. It's available any time of day. It's manned by domestic violence counselors that can assist you and get you help. So if you do feel that you're in an unsafe situation, please call 877-988-5559. That is our 24-hour crisis hotline. You can also access information on our website at www.houseofruthinc.org.
I'm writing some of this down. That's why the radio silent. Sorry, folks. You said .org?
Yes, houseofruthinc.org.
Inc. I'm writing with a pen and I forgot ink. .org. Very good. And I'm going to be putting some of this information on the show website. That's viewpointwithfatherjohn.com. And so we did this last time, and I did get some feedback from people who made use of the information.
Great.
So that's so important. I'm so glad you're here. Now, there's also a national hotline.
There is a national hotline, yes.
And you don't have to look it up right now. I just want to make sure, just in case some people miss this.
I believe it's called the hotline.
Yeah, I thought it was something like that.
Yeah, I believe if you look up the numbers that match the letters of the hotline. I think that is it.
Great. I'm dyslexic. I'm already going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I don't have that number memorized, but if you looked up National Hotline, Google it. I'm pretty sure the number is the hotline.
And if you are being abused, it's okay to call 911.
Yes, of course. Yep.
Please do.
Yep.
As we're in our last 5 minutes, what are some of the things that you would like to cover that I haven't asked about? If there's information you'd like for them to have.
For all of our listeners, we have a fun event coming up in June. It's called A Movable Feast. And it is a fundraising event, but it's really quite entertaining. We have a cocktail party in a central location.
Okay.
It will be held at the Garner House in Memorial Park in Claremont.
Yes, I know where that is.
And after an hour of mixing and mingling, the guests are given directions to a home within the close proximity for a dinner. And currently we have 11 wonderful hosts that are hosting dinner parties in their homes. And it's really quite fun for our guests. They love the surprise of not knowing where they're going. It's fun to watch everybody open up their envelopes and see what they're, comparing notes on whose house are you going to. And they get to experience just a wide variety of really great meals and home cooking and, just meeting and having good conversation with people that support and love House of Ruth. And
just a spoiler alert. None of those dinners are at my place, so don't worry. I'm not cooking for you. There's not a health issue here. Now, if someone wanted to get involved with that, how would they do that?
They can contact our agency. I'll just give a direct phone number, 909-868-8007. And we'll be happy to give you some more information about it. We will be mailing invitations soon, and we will have, it is June 8th, so it's a bit, there's some time.
Pretty close.
But save the date and mark your calendar, and we'll have some information coming out shortly on our social media channels as well as our website.
And if you send me that information as we get close, I will make some announcements here on the show for you.
Great.
I'll be happy to do that. I support what you're doing.
It's called A Movable Feast.
Movable Feast. Okay. And how much are the tickets?
The tickets are $100 per person.
And so anyone who wants to sponsor Gabby and I invite you to do that. Well, now that Nick's moving up to a bigger show, maybe I'll hit him up for tickets. He's looking at me through the glass like, nice try. Well, very good. Well, we're in our last couple minutes here, and just a couple things. Pat, thank you so much for being here. And again, congratulations on your promotion. I commend their wisdom.
Thank you.
In promoting you. I think you do such a fabulous job, and I'm personally grateful for what you do for our community, because it's not a glamorous issue, so it doesn't get a lot of spotlight it needs and deserves. As they say in radio, it's not sexy. Mm-hmm. And I learned that being an on-air personality now. Is it sexy? And then I always say, I'm too sexy for my program. And so that was for you, Nick. And so,
I will say trauma work is not easy, and vicarious trauma is pretty common for people in this business. Mm-hmm. And I just want to give a shout out to our amazing staff who work every day with people that are hurting the most.
Yes.
And they are resilient, and they offer great quality services, and they go home at night and, try to brush it off and get ready for the next day.
Well, my guest tonight has been Pat Bell, Executive Director of House of Ruth. And again, June 8th, if you're able to support them in this, please do. The crisis number is 877-988-5559. And go to houseofruthinc.org for more information. You have been tuned into Viewpoint with Father John. I'm your host, Father John Reid. And if no one has told you this week that they love you, let me be the first. I look forward to us being here next week. God bless.
KCAA